I'd like to call the October 23rd Monee Village meeting to order at 6:30. I think I'm about on the ball there. Could I ask Pastor David Fettis from Family of Faith to do our invocation?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin the prayer with some words from Psalm 36. O Lord, your love reaches to the heavens, your faithfulness to the skies. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains, your justice like the great deep. O Lord, you preserve both man and beast. How priceless is your unfailing love. Both high and low among men find refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. And so we come to you again tonight, Lord, seeking light from you, wisdom for everyone here who's gathered to discuss matters related to this village. Give, Lord, your light and your wisdom. As the fountain of life, we pray that the decisions made will contribute to the life and flourishing of the village. As the great God of all love, we pray that in our village, love may flourish more and more, that in our homes, people may love each other as you have loved us, and that we can build each other up. We pray, Lord, for those who have special responsibilities, for our mayor and trustees, for those who work as staff to carry out the various executive functions of the village. We pray for those who serve as police and first responders, who manage park districts, who are educators. We pray, Lord, that each one in their own role may have wisdom from you and strength to carry on their responsibilities. We thank you for their willingness to serve and give them, Lord, satisfaction and joy in serving. And so again tonight, we commit this meeting to you in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Will you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Blue? Trustee Gonzalez? Here. Trustee Horn?
Here.
Trustee Razik?
Present.
Trustee Wilson? Trustee Udris?
Here.
Okay, we'll move on to open to the public, agenda items only. You please come forward if you have something you'd like to talk about.
Norb Snow, Golf Vista. I'm here to talk about the new business, ELS Golf HUD Amendment. I've got many issues, as I've expressed over several meetings. The condition of the golf course, trees. My main concern for a lot of the people over there, too, is this 5% compounded annually rent increase. Okay? The lot fee that I pay over there is equivalent to the real estate taxes on a $265,000 house. Okay. And it's going to go up 5% every year. And what I'm hearing is they're not even staying to the 5%, they're hitting them with $50 increases, which is over the 5%. We've talked to them about a loyalty program where 0 to 10 years there, they get the 5%. 10 to 15 years, you get a $20 increase. 15 to 20 years, you get a $10 a month increase. After 20 years, you get no increases. Just something we'd like to float, and we have floated it to them before, but to no avail. Thank you.
Thank you, Norb. Anyone else for open to the public?
Gary Sullivan, 25755 Olympic Drive, Golf Vista. Also the president of the Homeowners Association, representing 267 homes, 357 people in our community. I think this could be a win-win for everybody. think the village has to work with the ELS, and the ELS has to work with the village. But more importantly is, I think it's the people that are going to be brought in. Maybe we can get a grocery store. I've heard a couple numbers on the homes. So we could be adding 150 people, 200 people. So I hope that everybody works together. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else for open to the public? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Razik?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to the clerk's report. Denisha.
Thank you, Mayor Pop. I will administer the oath first, and then I'll complete my report.
Scott, I'd like you to be up there, too. You're our building services trustee.
If you can please raise your right hand, and after I say aye, insert your name. I
Frank Giordano,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
as Code Enforcement Officer
as Code Enforcement
for the
Officer
Village of Monee
for the Village of Monee
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Frank, we're glad to have you aboard.
And here. Okay, thank you, Mayor Pop. I just wanted to share that on last week, I attended the Municipal Clerks of Illinois Institute. This was my second year in which I had to complete another 40 hours of classroom study time toward certification. And doing that, we had records management and retention that we had to go over, as well as we had a field trip. Since we were second year, we had a field trip over to the Springfield Municipal Building, where we looked at the clerk's office, their records retention, as well as their vault. And so all of this information was very helpful. We also went over the new rules that will be put in place. And so all of this stuff will, of course, help to keep the village and everyone following the rules and in order. So I just wanted to report on that, as well as in order for me to fully complete and receive my credit for last week, I must now complete my 6,000 word paper from all of the information that was retained in the report.
I could say something, but like it's about time. Not really. I told you, don't worry about my demeanor, it's out there. Okay, we'll move on to the mayor's report. I have two items. One I wanted to mention is open to the public. We have open to the public twice during the meeting. One is agenda items only, and near the end of the meeting, it's whatever you want to talk about. And I have to say that I dropped the ball at the one meeting when I allowed people to start talking when the trustees were discussing something after both open to the meeting parts of the agenda were over with. And I'm not going to allow that anymore. So just so you know, if you have something you want to say, just because we're discussing something, if you've already had your open to the public non-agenda items, I'm not going to recognize you. So if you have something on your mind, make sure you approach us at that time. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to, discussion and approval to cancel our November 27th meeting. It's the day before Thanksgiving. Could I have a motion on that, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion on it? We have talked about it before.
And at the last meeting, you talked about also a special meeting the week
We
before.
will be, yes.
And we
will be
discussed,
having-
rather than canceling, just
Correct.
moving it up a week. Is
Correct,
that
we will
still
have
an
a
option?
special meeting, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, that's going to happen.
Wait, just to clarify, that's a special meeting, a committee of the whole, which is not rescheduling this meeting for there.
Gotcha.
Is that Tuesday, November 19th at starting at 7?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Razak?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to the administrator's report. David?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Board. I have one item on the agenda for your consideration this evening. In the performance of a long-range planning process, one major item that came up as we're developing the long-range plan is a possibility of a wastewater treatment facility for the village of Monee. With that in mind, because it's such a large project and takes such a long time to come to fruition, what you have before you this evening is a proposal to determine the feasibility of the village of Monee constructing a wastewater treatment facility. I have requested Robinson Engineering to submit a proposal for determining the feasibility of such a facility. And while assembling the information for this request, it was determined that Robinson Engineering already has a significant amount of information, as they are the municipal engineers. So therefore, it made good sense to make this request of Robinson. So attached, please find a proposal for services to be provided in preparing a feasibility study on whether the village of Monee is able to construct and operate a municipal-owned wastewater treatment facility. Proposal amount for engineering services is given in a range between $15,000 and $20,000. The action requested this evening is a motion to accept the proposal from Robinson Engineering in the amount not to exceed $20,000 and allow the administrator to execute the same.
Any discussion? I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, a second? Any discussion?
Is the purpose of this, or one of the possible end products of this, being less reliant on Aqua and kind of breaking away from Aqua?
We'll have everything to do with it.
Yes, sir.
And we have a lot of information because of the GIS program that we already have, correct?
Correct.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Razak?
Yes.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, David. We'll move on to the officials' report. Public Works, Trustee Horn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the board. 2 items for your informational purposes. Public Works has completed the water meter upgrade/replacement program. This, as many of you know, has been a 5-year program that the village has invested roughly $620,000 in providing the latest technology in water metering by the safest means to residents due to its no lead or copper properties. Overall, the new meters will reduce staff time in reading the water and allow for a system where Monee residents can be alerted in the event of a higher than normal daily water consumption they would otherwise not be aware of. Technologies like this ultimately save lives, save communities tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars annually by preserving water at the source, aquifer, and pumping, storage, and distribution costs to the end user in instances of leaking toilets, faucets, and water softeners. We'd like to thank the residents of Monee for their cooperation and support during this program period. So the next item is the Village Fall Roadwork Maintenance Program. Will be starting in the next few weeks.
Residents will see construction signs along roadways alerting them of the pending improvements. Please use caution around these work zones and allow for extra time in your commute when work is underway. As always, you can villageofmonee.org for more information about this and other topics. Thank you.
End of report. End of report. Okay, we'll move on to Parks and Recs, and Trustee Wilson is on vacation. So our Parks and Recs young lady, Diana, if you wish to make a couple of statements.
Good evening. Just to recap, Halloween Happenings was this past Friday, and it was amazing. It was hugely attended. The weather was great, and everybody had a great time. With upcoming events that we have coming up, on November 11th is a Veterans Day tribute put on by the American Legion here in front of the Village Hall at 11 o'clock. On November 13th is the second Medicare presentation, which will be at the Fireman's Park building at 6 o'clock. Senior luncheon is November 22nd from 12 to 2. We have plenty of programs still going on, from preschool music and movement to Little Tykes, silly science, art classes, taekwondo, yoga, Muay Thai, stuffed animal workshops that everyone can still register for at any time. And if anybody has any program ideas, please give Parks and Rec a call. Thanks.
Thanks, Di. Move on to Finance. Trustee Blue is out of state right now with her job. But I might say that we're within 1% of what we expected to spend at this time of the year. So we're right on the button right now, and that's a good thing. Okay, we'll move on to Economic Development. Trustee Razik.
I have nothing for economic development, but I do have something would have fallen under Parks and Rec. All 4 of our Monee Mavericks teams are going to the Super Bowl this year. The Monee Mavericks Super Bowl will be held this Sunday at Marion Catholic High School in Chicago Heights, 700 Ashland Avenue. The Super Lights play at 10 a.m., the Lightweights play at 11:30 a.m., Junior Varsity plays at 1 p.m., and Varsity plays at 2:30 p.m. And there will probably be trophy presentations in between the games. So that's all I had.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And I'm sure that Trustee Wilson would have covered that, but it's good you covered for him, okay? Great. Okay, we'll move on to Building Services. Trustee Udris.
Okay, first off, also just wanted to reiterate the Halloween happenings at the park on Friday. Trunk or Treat was very well attended. I had a blast out there. Kudos to DPW for creating one heck of a bonfire, and Diana for getting it roaring. That was great. As somebody who got to help judge the some of the costume contests, there were some of the cutest costumes that I've ever seen with some of the kids that were out there, and I wished I could have given every single one of them a prize, because they're absolutely adorable and had so much fun, and really enjoyed seeing so many people from the village out there. In Building Services, Bailey Ridge 4, final inspections are being scheduled, which will close out the permit process for that building. Monee Venture 3 has also begun scheduling its final inspections for the north end tenant build-out. That's coming to completion. And a reminder for businesses that November begins the annual business inspections. So please get those scheduled at your earliest conveniences. That will help to avoid any delays with your license renewal. And as always, please ensure that all building service projects are submitted for proper permitting before any work takes place within any properties within our village limits. And if you're unsure if your project does require a permit, please feel free to come in and check with the village, give a call, check the website, anything, so that we can help guide those projects for you. And lastly, just wanted to make a comment that I've been receiving a lot of emails and phone calls from people within the village having issues with the garbage can ordinance that we have, and I just publicly wanted to say that we're not out to get anybody with your garbage cans. We're doing the best that we can. to try to keep our village and our residential areas looking as nice as we can. So it is something that is there, and we want to keep our village looking good. And I just wanted to publicly say that.
Very good.
End of report.
Thank you, Scott. We'll move on to public safety. Trustee Gonzalez.
No report.
Thank you, Heidi. With that in mind, we'll move on to the attorney's report. Larry.
Thank you, Your Honor. I got one item for the board's consideration. Pursuant to the last board meeting, I was authorized or directed to draft an ordinance amending Title III relative to the sale of recreational cannabis. This ordinance hereby will not allow a sale of recreational cannabis within the village of Monee, and that no business license shall be issued for the same. If I may, too, I did talk, Trustee Blue contacted me. She would like to be here tonight, but she's unavailable. I said by law, she's unable, due to the nature of her absence, she's unable to vote by proxy. You know, if you give 48 hours ahead of time, you could be on the phone, but that's, in this situation, she wanted to, but she's unable to by law. But she asked me to put that in the record. So it is up for the board's review and consideration, this ordinance.
Could I have a motion on that, please?
I would like to make a motion to table this until the next board meeting when we have a full board.
Is there a second to that? If not, the motion dies. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
I just-
The only thing I want to say, and I have to say this, we were a little bullied at last meeting, trying to do the right thing. We've had 4 meetings on this. We were willing to try other avenues, even with putting something on your water bill or mailing stuff out, and we got scolded for it. And that happened when people weren't supposed to be talking. That's why I brought up what I brought up. So, the board is ready to do whatever. End of my comments. If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Razik?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to old business.
You need an ordinance number.
I'm sorry?
Ordinance number.
Oh, I'm sorry, ordinance number?
Ordinance number is 1935.
Old business, is there any old business anyone wants to bring up? Okay, if not, we'll move on to new business. And I know we have a group here from ELS that would like to make a presentation. I already told them I didn't like them, but I was joking. Okay,
Thanks, Mayor.
go right ahead.
Good
Introduce
evening, Mayor,
yourself.
trustees. My name's Paul Shadle, and I, along with my colleague Liz Butler, represent MHC Golf Vista Estates LLC, the petitioner for an amendment to an existing PUD ordinance for the Golf Vista Estates community. It's an approximately 140-acre site located generally at 4951 Augusta Boulevard. I pointed this way, but I guess I should have pointed like this. The petitioner is the owner of the property and an affiliate of Equity Lifestyle Properties, which is the leading owner and operator of manufactured home communities in North America, and they acquired the property in 1997. I'm joined tonight by representatives of the project team, including Marissa Coleman and Mike Blank, the land and site development managers, Tricia Lombardo, who's the senior regional manager for ELS, Heather Bowl, who's the Golf Vista Estates community manager, and Ryan Wagner of V3 Companies, who's the project manager and the civil engineer for the project. So let me just advance this. So the property consists of approximately 143 acres and is currently zoned as part of a planned unit development that the village originally established in 1991 and later amended in 2001. Pursuant to that approval, the property has been improved with 6 phases, including 408 lots and an executive golf course and some related facilities. The petitioner is seeking approval from the board to authorize the next phase of development, which requires a minor deviation from the approved final plan under your zoning ordinance in order to reconfigure the layout of streets and to construct 89 new lots. And later in our presentation, Ryan Wagner from V3 will speak to the specific changes to the plan that are being proposed in some detail. The petitioner has worked closely with the village staff on the proposed development, and we've gotten feedback from them on things that they and you as the trustees are concerned about. And I just want to mention several public benefits that are associated with the proposed development that we'd like to highlight for the board. First, the financial contribution to the village. The petitioner will make a financial contribution to the village in the amount of $100,000. The payment would be made on a pro rata basis as each of the lots is set. Second, there will be an increase in the tap-on fees from that's set forth in the original PUD ordinance. The tap-in fees were established originally at $250 for water and $250 per sewer per unit. As part of this PUD amendment, ELS is agreeing to increase the tap-on fees to $2,500 per unit for the water tap-in fee, $250 for the sewer tap-in fee, and $600 per unit for the sanitary sewer fee, which should generate for the 89 lots approximately $298,000. And the third thing I wanted to mention is the donation of what we've called the village lot. ELS will donate to the village a 1 acre parcel to be used for such purposes as the village requires or deems appropriate and advisable. That was a condition of the original 1991 PUD ordinance, but it actually just didn't happen, so we're trying to make sure that it does happen as part of this amendment. And in addition to these public benefits, ELS wants to report to you and sort of reaffirm the status of certain ongoing obligations and commitments under the PUD, which, again, your staff has expressed to us and we understand are concerns of the board. First, 55-plus community. Gulf Vista Estates was established as an age-qualified 55-plus retirement community as required by that PUD ordinance in 1991. ELS completely supports the status quo in this regard and will continue to operate and market Gulf Vista as a 55-plus community. Second, sales taxes. ELS also understands that it's important to the village that the sales taxes generated by the sales of each of the pads come back to the village, redound to the village's benefit, and that those sales, in order for that to happen, those sales should originate in the village. ELS has confirmed with its internal tax department that under its current practices, the sales of these homes are indeed originated in Monee, and that will continue. Third, the golf course condition. We understand from the village that the condition and maintenance of the course is of great concern and interest to the village and to the residents of Gulf Vista. Staff has communicated the village's concern to the developer, and as a result, ELS is committing to certain specific improvements to the golf course. We'll provide you with a summary of those in a little bit more detail later, but we understand that it is to be operated and will continue to be operated as a 9-hole executive golf course. And Tricia Lombardo can speak a little bit to this momentarily. But before we get to those specifics, I do want to just ask Ryan Wagner from V3 if he can briefly walk through the proposed physical. I keep looking to my left to Ryan. You're sitting to my right. I know. Sorry. Sorry, Mike. I know you're not Ryan. And he will speak specifically to some of the specific improvements that are proposed and contemplated as part of the Gulf Vista next phase. And before I hand it over to you, this is the original configuration that was under the original PUD ordinance, and with that, I'll turn it over to you to talk about what's proposed.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. My name's Ryan Wagner. I'm with V3 Companies, civil engineer, project manager for this project. As Paul mentioned, this is the original approved PUD plat for the property. On the next slide, I would like to, so attached is the proposed site plan as presented before you tonight, for which we're seeking your approval. I'd like to kind of run through how this varies from the original approved plan. This project will add 89 lots, whereas the original approved plan contemplated 86 lots on the property. The design will provide 7.5-foot side yard setbacks, ensuring a minimum of 15-foot building separation. This was coordinated with the fire department early on in the project and is something that was not included in the original PUD. The project includes the addition of 6.4 acre-feet of additional detention that was also not included under the PUD based on current code and requirements. That's something that will enhance this portion of the property. The project also includes the improvement to an existing detention facility on the west portion of the property, just to the south. ELS is providing an easement at the northwest corner of the property to the village for access to a public utility easement and storm sewer easement along the west side of the property and to the northwest corner so that a existing regional detention facility can be maintained by the village. The existing sanitary sewer through the property has been cleaned and televised prior to the start of the project. And the overall, we feel the deviations from the original final approved plan generally represent an increased efficiency in site planning, improvements for life safety, and enhancements to the stormwater management facility at the property. I'll now pass the presentation over to Tricia from ELS to report on the golf course.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening. My name is Tricia Lombardo. I'm the Senior Regional Manager for Equity Lifestyle Properties, and Golf Vista is in my portfolio and has been for about 3 years, so I'm very familiar with this property. I'm sorry. I'd like to provide the board with a summary of our plans for the golf course in connection with Phase 7, give you the status report of our maintenance routine, and some other proposed community improvements as well. Our golf course is maintained by a combination of our private landscape contractor, which is named Teza, along with our in-house staff. So Teza provides most of the maintenance for our golf course. They provide the mowing, the overseeding, the oversanding, the application of fungicide, application of they do all of our chemical applications. Sorry, they gave me some big words to tell you about. So they do all of our routine maintenance. Our daily maintenance is taken care of by our in-house staff. What they do is they make sure that the course is watered according to what the current conditions are. So we don't have everything just on an automatic timing system. We actually are going out there and turning it on and off according to what the needs are. We are proposing several upgrades both to the golf course and to the community in general. The upgrades include upgrading the golf course irrigation system. So the irrigation system, as I said, is fairly manual right now. We are going to reestablish an automated system. We're going to fix some lines that have been broken over time and do some work with the ponds in the irrigation systems. We're modifying the golf course stormwater management to prevent any flooding around the ponds and the water features. We will be replacing and replenishing all of the sand in the sand traps and providing additional drainage there as well. We understand that that's been a concern for some folks who are right on the golf course. The interior, we'll be renovating the interior of the golf course pro shop. We will be removing and replacing additional dead trees. So we've taken down about 200 trees so far. Some of them because of the ash borer, some of them just came to end of life. So we've taken a lot of trees down. We haven't done a lot of reforestation, but that is going to happen with the next phase of this project. The billiard room will be renovated. The sales office will be renovated. Oh, I didn't realize that. The front parking lot at the clubhouse will be removed and replaced as well. And we are also looking to add an outdoor pavilion, bocce, and cornhole space right adjacent to the clubhouse. So all of these upgrades are going to happen within the same time frame as the expansion project progresses. So they should all be done probably sometime by the middle of next summer. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Paul.
Thank you, Tricia. So that concludes the substance of our presentation, and the proposed development has been reviewed by the village engineering staff for conformance with the village code, and we understand that engineering has issued its approval subject to addressing some minor comments on the plans. The developer intends, if the board provides its approval, to mobilize and start site and earthwork as soon as possible. so that the work can be done before the weather changes. That's the site work. And in the interest and so I guess I should just say I want to add one other thing, which is that we understand, the village attorney has sort of pointed this out to us, that this is something that you're approving under your zoning ordinance, and we will be subject to all of the normal remedies and, recourse that the village has in the event of, any failure to perform. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I know, again, that it's important to the board. And with that, I guess we just respectfully request, well, first, we're available for any questions that you have, and we would respectfully request your approval of the PUD amendment. And thanks for...
If you don't mind, I'll start. I have a question.
Sure.
Should be a fairly simple one, I think. But I don't know how long the golf course has been in duress, may I say. We had a gentleman that worked for you who had a license for all the different chemicals you have to put on a green. And I'm wondering if you're going to have that type of an employment again, someone that can actually put the chemicals down that are needed.
So that is a license that's required by the IEPA. In our company, we do not hold that license internally, but our landscape contractor, Teza, does have the license to apply the fungicide and the fertilizers.
And that should straighten out our greens?
It should.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions right now?
I have some questions for
Sure.
you, Paul, Liz, Melissa, Mike, Tricia, and Ryan. I'm glad you're here. Appreciate you guys coming out. I find it interesting that you're all here tonight and proposing these things, which I would say, I can't speak for the rest of the board, I can speak for myself, that I am in favor of, and I think the development and renovation is long overdue. I was in that clubhouse about a week ago for outside event, but I saw them working on it, so that's really good. However, it's a little bit, this has been a long time in coming. And my comments are based on not myself, because I don't live in the development, but from my constituents who do live there, and they have had a lot of concerns, I would say, going back about 5 years. The first one being that the golf course has been virtually unplayable for the last 5 years. That's one thing. The other issue, which you had mentioned and alluded to, Paul, is the, well, you wanted to reinforce that it's a 55-plus community. However, there have been, apparently, there's been reports of underage people living in that, in Gulf Vista, including some kids being picked up for school. And I would be interested in knowing the ELS's plans for enforcing the 55-plus standard. The I guess I heard some, let's see, I believe, Tricia, you said 200 trees were cut down. I've heard 300, but I mean, who's quibbling? It's just 100 trees, but none have been replanted. What's the plan for that? And I would like you to address the increase in homeowner association fees of upwards of 5%, and it sounds like they've been over 5% in some cases. And then also the other issue, I believe, is will some of these new developments, these new homes, will they be rentals or for sale? And you can respond to any or all of those questions. Or none at all. You don't, if you're not prepared to.
No, I think we're good. Is the 55 and older. So, yes, we are 55 and older. That is our intent, is to remain 55 and older. We have heard these stories about the school buses coming in and kids being picked up in the past. We've always investigated those to our best of our ability to find out what's going on. What we typically hear is that it's residents who are providing before and after care, either for their own grandchildren or just for other people in the community. people do use the folks in Gulf Vista to provide, childcare and daycare services for them. Like I said, we look into it aggressively, maybe too aggressively, because actually our manager has followed some of the kids to the point where the police have actually asked her to not do that anymore, because we're trying to figure out exactly who they are and where they belong and if they're spending the night or if they're coming and going. So if anybody's ever aware of that happening, let us know, and we will definitely look into it, because we do not want underage people living in our community. And when I say some other people could be underage, I would say that might apply to people who are qualified caregivers who can stay within the community under the federal housing guidelines. So if somebody's got a live-in caregiver and they're 45 years old and they're put on the lease as an approved occupant, they actually can live within our community.
Can you say that again? Approved caregiver, say that again.
An approved caregiver. So if somebody has a caregiver who's living there and they're 35 or 45 years old and they're in-home caregiver, they still come to our office, they still put in an application, they still get a background check. So we're making sure that they don't have any felonies or sex offenders generally. And if that happens, then they are approved to live within our community for a specific period of time.
And they might have children themselves that are with them.
They should not have children. They should not have children, no.
And I have worked with the homeless liaison with Monee School District, and this is probably where a lot of this stemmed from too. And as a village, we are not allowed to police it as well as they could too. So we know a lot of the kids that were living back there or said to have been living there, if they claim homelessness, they get to go. They get to go wherever they are. Obviously, our housing has changed in the last 5, 6, 7 years, so that might not be happening nearly as often as it was at one point. But if any of those children, even within, that might be living there now, if they say they're claiming homelessness and they're living with the grandmother there, there's nothing any of us can do. We have to provide, let them have shelter, with grandmother or grandfather. So that might be some of that, but that might be where some of that is coming from. And and then I just have, are you done, Doug? Oh, go ahead with your question.
No, I'm done.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so the trees cut down, so yes, we have taken down trees. Our number is 200. We are going to be replacing trees. I don't have a specific number to give to you tonight as to how many trees. So we are working with our landscape company, our landscape architect, to come up with the type of trees and the location of trees. We're not going to put in all one type of tree, so if Asian ash borer comes through again, or emerald ash borer, we're not in the same predicament once again. But we are going to replant the trees both along the perimeter of the property and within the golf course footprint as well.
Well, our village has a pretty comprehensive tree replacement program, and we are Tree City USA, so I would ask that there are very specific trees that are allowed and a percentage of some of those trees within one property, so I would ask that you take that into consideration.
Absolutely, we'll work with you. Homeowner association fees, I think you may be speaking of our rent increases, because we don't have a homeowners association. Our rent increases are generally 5% a year. Sometimes they're a little bit less, but they're generally 5% a year. I can speak to when larger increases happen. It's generally when somebody had come into the property and they were given some sort of rent concession, so a multi-year rent concession. Some people come in and instead of paying $800 a month, they'll come in, they'll buy a home, and they'll get a deal that they're like $700 a month. When it comes time for their lease to renew and we bring them up to market, we bring them up to what the current standards are, which is basically what their neighbors are paying on either side of them. If it's $50, that means that basically they've been paying under market for that period of time. So that's where the rent increases come in. Sometimes the rent increase would actually be $100 to close the gap to market, is what we call it. We wouldn't bring them up to $100. $50 is really the maximum cap that we will ever do a rent increase, and that's just to bring them back up to what the market is. Okay, rentals and sublets. So it's our intent to sell every home that is being placed in the back, on this property within this expansion. We have no intention of renting homes. We're in the business of selling homes and just having lot rent. Could there be some rentals? I would say it's possible that they would be sprinkled in at some point. I would never say never that we wouldn't. The reason that we do rent homes, though, is for people who are coming and they're not able to afford to purchase a home up front. We try to get them in and try it before you buy it sort of mentality, and then we convert them. We do a rental conversion at some point, and we have them become owners. If in some period of time they're not able to purchase the home, we will non-renew that renter, and then we will attempt to sell it to another, a homeowner. But rentals for us are really just a means to an end. We really don't want rentals in our community. We really want to have owners.
Could you clarify one thing?
Sure.
When you say rentals, you mean rentals from your organization?
Correct.
Not private individuals?
Correct.
So that should be clarified, that it's from ELS perspective, not, if I lived in there, technically I couldn't rent it out.
You
correct?
could not. It's specifically excluded that you cannot sublet your home out to anybody else.
That's in the lease, correct?
It's in the lease.
Okay.
Correct.
We just want to make sure it's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is. Is that it?
I'm sorry, could I ask a question? So your intent to rent, like rent to own, something like that, is there a time limit on that? Did I hear that in your presentation there?
There is not a specific time limit. So we don't do rent to own as a program. We work with buyers. So sometimes there's a monetary limitation. Sometimes they're waiting for an insurance settlement. Sometimes they're selling a home in Florida. There's a whole lot of reasons. So we don't put a specific end date on that. So they are year to year. They're annual rentals, so they only rent for 1 year at a time. And every year we evaluate that person, determine if they're a candidate to do a rental conversion, and we make the attempt to have them purchase the home at that point. We have less than a 10% rental load at this property, though. We have a very, very low rental load here.
Understood, but we're also taking into account the increase of the potential 89 lots that are going to be developed. So I just wanted to clarify that the length of any rental that ELS is handling is dependent upon any given situation, but nevertheless may be arbitrary to a certain degree. This one might only rent for 2 years. This one could rent for 5 years.
That is correct.
Understood, thank you.
That is. And some of them are only 6 months. Some of them are able to be rental conversions in even less than 1 year.
Anyone else have any questions? If
I
not.
guess I'm curious with the golf course and what happened that it got so out of repair, and what kind of plans are there for the future so that that doesn't occur again?
I think part of the problem was the irrigation system. It seems like at some point in the past, it probably froze and some of the lines broke, and I think they lost control of it. And I don't think that in the turnover of our on-site staff, we had a great understanding of what the downfall was from that happening. I think that is a key to getting that golf course back up and running, is to really, we're putting in a 6-figure investment into the golf course as far as that irrigation system to get it back up and running again. And between that and switching to the landscape contractor who we have, and the different treatments that they're doing, so the oversanding, the overseeding, the fungicide, the herbicide, all of that together, that hadn't been done for many years in the past, and we are doing that. That is in our current contract, and we should see significant improvements. Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of questions for you, sorry.
That's okay.
And I'll go back to...
Excuse me, could you please speak into the mic so that we can pick it up? Thank you.
That's unusual. TESA, if we go back to them, and we established that they are able to apply the fungicide and everything. So somebody from TESA is golf course certified. They know how to rake, to mow, to make that usable again. So
yes.
And are they training the in-house staff to be able to do that as well? Because that's what I'm understanding too, that it's not just a landscaping guy coming and cutting the grass. There's a way to cut a golf course and to make sure that it's playable.
No, Teza is really the one who cuts the grass. Teza is the one who owns all of the proper equipment. Golf Vista, we don't own that equipment and we don't train our people on that equipment. So really the partnership is Teza does the cutting of the fairways, the roughs, the tee boxes. That's all done by Teza. All the mowing right now is handled under the Teza contract. All of the raking, the branch removal, the irrigation system, making sure that the flooding doesn't happen, that happens with my in-house staff. But my in-house staff doesn't use my contractor's equipment.
Okay. All right, and then other questions about the empty lots. I know you have a plan to put in 89 new lots, and we probably have about a half a dozen empty lots there, or now some that are, might be standing empty. What are your plans to, if you're going to build 89 new, how are we going to fill the empty ones and the ones that aren't being used right now?
So we already have homes on order for every vacant lot that we have in the property.
Good to know.
So, and this is kind of an example on the board of what our new homes look like. So they're Clayton homes, they're a high-end product. They are energy efficient, they have LED lighting, they're almost maintenance-free, they're very low maintenance for this population. They have handicap accessible features within them, attached garages, and really when you come in to look at this community, it's gonna look like a subdivision.
So will it mix in nicely with the ones that are already there, so it won't look, that they won't look outdated or anything, but, when the new ones go in along that way?
Yeah, it will. So there'll be a variety. A lot of them will be similar to this, so they won't be the same color and they won't be exactly the same. Some are a full front porch, some are a half porch. The color schemes vary widely. 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, but yes, they will.
So you as ELS probably have a chance to go over a lot of the country in different markets and things too. How are you marketing Monee and Golf Vista Estates to make sure that we can sell these 89 lots?
So these particular lots are going to be marketed as premium lots. So many of these will have views both out the back and out the front of the home. So they'll take advantage of the tree line as well as the golf course views. They're oversized lots, they're premium, and it's in a golf course community, in a great community. So we have a national marketing team that's working on a campaign for that.
And with Kevin, our Economic Development Director?
We've not reached out to him, but we'd certainly love to.
He's the guy.
We'll take any help that we can get as far as helping market these homes, absolutely.
Okay, and then 2 last questions. So you were talking about a contribution to the village of $100,000 contribution to the village. And that's awful nice, but you are also saying that there are increases being imposed to the residents there. What if, have we talked about it, and I'm just going to say it, that contribution stays within the community and not impose any increases to the residents?
Yeah, I don't have the authority to answer that question at this time, but it's certainly something we could bring up.
If I may, Heidi.
Yeah.
I think when they indicated a contribution to the village, under the previous agreement, it was mandated $100,000 based on the sales. I think they had 500 something sales. What they're doing in lieu of that, because that could take 3 or 4 years, they agreed to pay so much on a pro rata basis. So contribution is probably a strong word, because contractually they're obligated to pay it. What they've conceded to was pay us on a pro rata basis.
I should have used the word accelerate it rather than, yeah.
Once we get the money.
Yeah, exactly. Speed it up.
And I agree with Paul. That would be the way that money is contributed to, or paid to the village, would be an internal question how it's going to be used. They're by law, or by our contract that was signed back in '95 with them, they're obligated to pay. They paid so much so far, but it's all based on the number of sales. And the last phase is $100,000. So contributions are strong. But if you want to contribute another $100,000, we don't care. Can I ask you one question? with respect to the sales, can you give the board some idea how long you think it'll take to sell 89 lots? I think we talked about that, just so the board has some semblance that they're not going to be vacant forever.
We would hope with between 2 to 3 years to fully sell out.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Larry?
If I may, to add to the mayor, they're not asking any action tonight, ELS. We'll have a full board, November, is that our next board? November? Whatever, first. Okay, thanks. November, they'll be present again to make the presentation for the authority for the mayor to execute the amendment. I think we incorporated part of the amendment into your file, but it'll reiterate what they talked about tonight with a few other modifications we have yet to discuss. But they wanted to come down and introduce themselves, address any concerns the board may have, and they will be present at the first meeting in November.
That will be November 13th.
Pardon me?
November 13th.
Okay.
November 13th. Okay. We don't need any more action then. Am I correct? No more action? Okay, we'll move on to open to the public, non-agenda items. If you have something you'd like to bring up or talk about, please step forward.
I'm not sure if anyone wanted to come up for that, but I did want to also make mention that something else that we learned as far as with the new rules coming up, or the new laws, I should say, we had it removed from the front of the comments. It hasn't been removed from the rear. And if you notice on the sign-in sheet, the address has been removed because going forward, if anyone wants to make comment, they can, they have come and state their name, but they're no longer compelled to give their address.
Is that the law?
That will be, yes, for PAC.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I just have one short thing too, just so everybody knows, coming up, the Monee Women's Club on November 2nd at Monee Elementary has our 5th Monee Women's Club Vendor Fair and Business Showcase. So if there's any potential vendors that you know of, Monee Women's Club members get first priority, Monee residents second, and then our neighboring community. So if you have anybody that has special time and talents or small businesses that want to be part of it, I have applications with me tonight too. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no one for open to the public, we're going to be moving into executive session. We're covering collective bargaining, 5 ILCS 120/2, C2, and employment compensation of a specific individual, which is 5 ILCS 120/2, C1. So, could I have a motion to close the meeting?
Make the motion. I'll second. Second.
So motion to go
Discussion?
into executive session?
Yes.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Udris?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Horn? Trustee Razik?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming.